So when it comes to sharing deals with investors, it really just comes down to giving them what they want. So you just figure out exactly what they're looking for, what their why is. You want to dig deep onto what it is that they're trying to accomplish with these investments, not just, oh, we're just going to make some passive income but why?
Is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Our guest today is Alex Kingman. She's a co-owner and head of marketing and investor relations at KGI Capital. KGI invests in 1 to 100 unit distressed and heavy value add properties in the Midwest and Southeast, 80 units, and has 10 million in assets under management. Her kids are her why. She's in South San Francisco. Great conversation with Alex. So she has a sales and marketing background, and we dive into that and how she has implemented those skill sets into her investor relations process. And you're going to learn a lot from Alex today. Questions all the time about investor relations and how to handle investors and the marketing piece of that. And our guest today is an expert in just that, and probably many other things, but we're going to focus on that today anyway. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, honored to meet you and to have you on the show. Give us a little bit about who Alex is, your background in maybe real estate or what was before real estate, and let's dive into our topic today.
Sure. So before I went full time into real estate, I was in sales and marketing, and I actually was a top Airstream salesperson, and I loved it. I was really into it, and it was a springboard to be able to go full time into real estate. And so now I'm full time in real estate. We started investing in real estate about actually, it's been about 6 years now, about 6 years ago. And we started with a house hack. So it was a 3-bed, 2-bath with a gross granny unit on the other side. That was kind of like a little studio with a bathroom and a garage right next to it. So we actually lived in the granny unit, rented out the 3-bed, 2-bath, and then renovated the granny unit and the garage into a 2-bed, 1-bath. And so we lived in one side, rented out the other. And that's kind of how we just got into the space. From there, we decided that we really liked real estate investing. And my partner he's now a general contractor. At the time, he was just kind of in the construction industry and working in the trades. And so we decided to specifically focus on heavy value add properties, distressed properties where we can bring it a physical value add component to it because we had that going for us already. We had the background in it, or at least he did, and I was the partner. So then we decided we want to continue investing in real estate. But this first property was in California. So we decided to continue investing elsewhere because, as probably most of your listeners are aware, California is not necessarily the most popular for real estate investing. So we moved into a couple different markets. We did a lot of research and we landed on Jacksonville, Florida, and South Bend, Mishawaka, just northern Indiana area. So we bought some different properties there and learned a lot along the way about different aspects of investing from a distance and about just managing larger rehab projects and things like that. So it was a really good experience. At some point in the process, we actually learned that we had a lot of people who were actually interested in investing with us. So we started doing some JVs and it kind of just went from there. We decided that we wanted to go bigger, and then we got into multifamily syndications, doing the same kind of strategy of the distressed or heavy value add properties, specifically with that physical component. And now we have been just looking for the next properties and usually focusing kind of in that 20 to 100 unit space. And we have a property in Oklahoma that we're working on renovating at the moment, a 72 unit property. And that one has been going really well. And so, yeah, from here, we've just been working on growing everything and bringing more, new investors in. And
What gave you
that's
the
kind of how we
confidence to
got
be able to
started.
move into, syndication specifically? Did you all maybe have some mentors? You surround yourself with other people that were doing it? How did you do that?
So we actually decided that what we were doing made more sense for the people we were working with, the partners who wanted to be more passive in deals, and then for ourselves to, I guess, have more economy of scale to go into the space. We didn't have any particular mentors. We actually weren't sure exactly how to get into the space at first. So we were kind of like, okay, we're going to do it. Now what? I think a lot of people get stuck there because it is kind of a whole nother level in a way than 1 to 4 unit properties. And it takes a slightly different skill set because you have to learn about the terminology and the syndication world in general. So we weren't sure what to do. So we just started with what we thought would be best. So we just started networking. We started just getting around people who were doing what we wanted to do and networking. We went to a lot of online and in person networking meetups and events. And really from there, it took off. We met the right people that we wanted to work with and we just went from there. So I
Okay.
think that's a good start.
Yeah, congratulations to you all though for just making it happen. I
Thank
think
you.
maybe you get stuck there. I think so many people they hear the word syndication and it kind of scares them, right?
Yeah, it can
They
definitely be
don't
a
move.
little intimidating.
Yeah, they don't move forward, and sounds like that didn't slow you all down. You kept moving forward and surrounded yourself with people that were already doing. I think that's doing it. I think that's huge for myself and for so many people that I've seen move forward. Right? It's all about getting out there, meeting people who are ahead of you, and being able to ask some questions. You sales have a sales marketing background, and now you're in. It's a really good background for investor relations, right? And marketing in our
Absolutely.
business. And tell us, let's dive in there a little bit and some of the skill sets maybe or things that you learned from that background, right? That have helped you in this business to not only attract investors and get them to sign up and all those things, but provide great service, right, to our investors.
Mhm.
And so let's maybe walk through that process a little bit. But what are some things maybe you brought from that background that have been so beneficial to you that maybe I wouldn't have, right, without that background?
I think one of the biggest areas that I've found it to be helpful is when I'm sharing a deal with investors. I know what they're looking for a lot more. In sales, one of the reasons that I did really well is because I didn't focus on trying to just close everyone or be like a lot of people think about sales and they think that they can't trust a salesperson, but I was always trying to be the opposite of that. I was always trying to be as helpful as I possibly could and figure out exactly what it was that people that specific client needed and wanted and then give that to them. So it was always a very open process and something that was really enjoyable because you actually got to help people get exactly what they wanted. So when it comes to sharing deals with investors and it really just comes down to giving them what they want. So you just figure out exactly what they're looking for, what their why is. You want to dig deep onto what it is that they're trying to accomplish with these investments. Not just, oh, we're just gonna make some passive income but why? So what is it? Are you trying to have more time freedom in your life? Are you happy with your job and you're just looking for a retirement later on? What is it that you're trying to do? Because that affects, you know, the type of deals you want to do and what your strategy is. And so from there, you're able to really understand each investor and then be able to show them the deals that will be best for them and why it will be best for them.
How do you
Um,
how do you
yeah.
find that information out? Where do you when in the process or when do you ask
Hmm.
that or, when does that come up that you learn that exact thing?
A lot of times when an investor is interested in what we do, we'll do a call and just get to know each other, see if we're a good fit to potentially work together in the future. And at that point, a lot of times I'll ask questions about
Sure.
what it is that they're looking for and see if what we do, specifically with the value add type of properties, is something that could be a good fit for their goals. And if not, then I can know pretty quickly and maybe even share with them somebody else who might be doing something more in line with what they're looking for.
How do you document that?
Typically, I just kind of take some notes while I am talking to them, and then I just use right now I use HubSpot, and I'll just put all their criteria in there, and that way I always know it's always connected to them, and I always know exactly what it is that they're looking for, so that when a deal comes up, I can match the two and
Yeah.
then go from there.
Let's go a little bit earlier in that process. 'Cause you said
Sure.
marketing background. How are you attracting them?
I do a lot of networking to start with. I like to find groups that typically, I guess, different passive investors are already hanging out in. So maybe that's Bigger Pockets forums, or maybe that's, for example, the Left Field Investors group or something like that. And then I like to be able to share something that I think would help them, maybe provide some kind of value, whether that's online, on LinkedIn with a post or whatever the case may be, but share something that would be valuable to them and then see if they are interested in chatting more, and if they'd be interested in just learning more about KGI Capital, what we do, and then just go from there.
Yeah. No, awesome. What about your maybe cadence for reaching out, right? Making those things
Mhm.
happen, whether it's BP or other social media platforms. I don't know, just provide some insight in your marketing there and how you do that. I get questions about that all the time. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
How do you market to investors and how do you do that?
It's a good question, especially because, especially if you are a sponsor that focuses on 506B, it starts to be like you can't really put out there what you do or, the deal you're doing, but you got to have investors to do the deal. And so it can be a little tough, but what I like to focus on is a lot of times I will, for example, let's just say when we were first getting into the space, I joined a group, an investing group. It was Tribe of Titans. I think Brian Briscoe. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it was just like a tight knit group of people. A lot of them were active investors, but some were also passive. So I actually just reached out to everyone on the platform. I was just really excited to learn from anyone and everyone, but also hopefully find a couple of LPs in there and see if any of them had any interest of working with us. So I just messaged each person and looked at their background and I was like, oh, this is cool. Tell me more about this. And just really tried to build relationships with everyone there. And that was really beneficial. So that was kind of a good way to get into the space, but also to make those connections and build relationships with the people that are looking for the deals that we have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good way. And if syndicators are looking for a way to make those relationships, finding a group where people are really engaged and have potential investors in it is a good way to start. And then just reaching out to those people and getting to talk to them on a Zoom call or in person if they're local, even better. And then just
Yeah.
kind of
Again,
going from there.
you surrounded yourself with other people that are doing it, right? And built
Yeah.
relationships and yeah, very similar to what I did. It works, right? People
Yeah, exactly.
most are just not willing to put themselves out there, right? Or go join that group or be the new person or go shake some hands.
Right.
People they
Right.
don't know, and I think you just have to be willing to push through that discomfort, right? Uh,
Yeah, so I mean, there's that, and then there's also it sounds simple, or it is simple, but it's not always easy. You have to be consistent,
right.
and it can take a lot of time and a lot of work, but, I love it, so it's okay.
Yeah, I no, I completely agree. It does take a lot of time. I know I used to travel a lot more than I do now and go to as many conferences and masterminds and all those things. And I didn't know where or when it was going to pay off, and
Yeah.
but there are so many relationships that or partnerships, let's say, that we've had with people that came from meeting them, say, 5 years earlier, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes, absolutely.
you never know, and it took a lot of time staying in contact with them and reaching out ever so often, "How you doing?" And having a phone
Mhm.
call here and there with really no agenda other than just touching base, and so I
Yeah.
completely agree. So now you've met this individual or you've had a phone call or
Mhm.
what happens after that?
From there, because a lot of times we have focus on 506B deals, it's still a little early for us to be sharing deals with them at that point. So from there, depending on if I had a previous relationship with them before even having that call, depends a little bit on what happens afterwards. But from there, what we usually do is keep in touch. We have a newsletter that we will share with them with updates and also educational type of informations because a lot of times there are new investors who don't necessarily know everything about syndications. There's a lot to learn. We go into depth on those things just in a weekly email. And then that's also where we eventually will share deals with them when they're ready, when they're able to understand everything about the investment and or ready in that we have that relationship built up to a point where they would feel comfortable in investing with us. So typically we do that. We'll sometimes, do more calls if we feel that we need to understand what it is that they're looking for a little more. And or if they're in the area, then we'll invite them to come out and do things, invite them to different meetups that we're a part of. And that's extra fun in my opinion, because then it's even easier to become, I guess, friends even with a lot of our investors over time because they're right there. We can go golfing or we can go rock climbing, whatever it is that, we enjoy doing. So
Rock
yeah, I'm sorry, I said rock climbing, but I kind of cut myself off. Rock climbing or whatever it is. That was an example. I actually haven't gone rock climbing with any investors, but
climbing.
it would be fun. So if anyone's out there,
Oh, that's funny.
can go.
Now that you've been doing this a bit, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that other GPs or operators are making that cause, say, passives not to want to invest or reinvest?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest things that I've heard, you know, a lot of people that I've talked to that are passive investors have worked with other syndicators in the past. And the main thing that I hear is, yeah, actually, the returns were fine. The deal was okay. I even got really good returns, but they did not ever communicate with me. I could never get a hold of them. And I never got any updates. And so, really, the biggest issue that I've heard from LPs is poor communication. And that's one of the easiest, in my opinion, one of the easiest things to be able to give to investors. And one of the things that I think that shouldn't be a question. It shouldn't be whether or not they're going to hear back. I think it needs to be something that's taken really seriously because you are a steward of their investments. So you need to be upfront and be sharing what's going on because this is their capital and their money. And for some people, if they are just getting started in the space, a lot of times it might be quite a big sum for them to be putting into a deal. And that's important for them to hear from you and for them to be able to know what's going on, whether it's good or bad. They just want to know.
Yeah.
So, and they just want to know if it is bad, what are you doing about it? How are you handling it? And things like that. So, communication, sending updates at least quarterly, telling them what's going on, what's going well, what are you focusing on, what's, looking forward, what's going on. And then keeping in contact in between those updates as well, whether that's going rock climbing or just giving them a call and saying, hey, this is kind of what's happening and just keeping in touch. I think that is one of the biggest, most important things that I think a lot of people and syndicators kind of forget.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult thing, especially as you grow and your
Yeah.
investor base scales. I wish I could still talk to every investor more often,
Right.
right? And it's very difficult to make that happen. And we're trying to set up even systems now where I can still like at least like once a year still call all of our active investors.
Mhm.
Even that's difficult, right, to get done or and trying to be more available, but for them, because it is a service, right, that we want to provide. Your updates, and we'll shift to a few final questions in just a moment, but maybe highlight what you would suggest is important, say, in an investor update, right? The
Mm.
monthly or quarterly or whatever. But what are you seeing that hey, investors really want to know a few of these things?
Yeah. First, just an overall, where's everything at? I think that's pretty simple. And then we usually have how we have it kind of formatted is we have kind of the written kind of formal, like, here's what's going on one side. And then on the other, we have some stats. I don't know if stats is the right word, but some almost like KPIs of like how many move-ins did we have this quarter? How many move-outs? How many units were turned? Things like that. And so that way they can see the progress not only in our explanation, but also in numbers. So I think that helps a lot because it gives them something tangible more than just like everything's going well and we're starting renovations on this and the windows have been replaced. And so for them, they're able to actually see, okay, here are some numbers quarter over quarter, and they can see the progress. In addition, they also just want to know simple things like, are we still on track? Are what's the occupancy? What's going well? What are you maybe struggling with, if anything? And if so, what are you guys doing about it? So I think those are all important things. And especially if there is something that's not going as well, I think that needs to be addressed ASAP.
Yeah.
And, because really it's important to just know upfront and then you can go from there if need be. So
What's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
I have had a lot of success with actually just in-person meetups. So I do a lot of online things too, but I don't know. I love people and I love especially in-person meetups. So that might be just, if you're just an outgoing person and love people, that might be a good way to go about meeting investors because that's right in your lane. So I personally have met a lot of investors through just networking and meetups, and I enjoy that. But there are different ways that anyone can go about it, but that's been really successful for me.
What's your what are some of the most important metrics that you track? Could be personally or
Mhm.
professionally.
Hmm. Well, professionally, I track a lot of different things kind of in that whole process from meeting a new investor to them investing in a deal with us. And then I guess beyond that as well. So for example, where they are kind of in that process, how many people are going from like one step of that to the next. And uh, mainly things like that, just kind of like where they are in the process and then how close they are to maybe being able to invest in a deal or having that knowledge base or maybe how ready or if they're looking for their next deal or not, and that kind of thing. So kind of where they're at. So I track those kinds of things so that I can know exactly where everyone's at and then be able to share deals with them if they're looking.
Yeah. Is that something you do in HubSpot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. It works
Uh,
well.
and I get questions about CRMs all the time. And are you, and we're very experienced with HubSpot as well, but are you satisfied with that platform?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, I don't have like the most include is inclusive level of HubSpot, which would be nice. But even with, I think mine's like the middle tier. I don't know exactly which one, but even with that one, I've been able to do everything I need to do. I think as we continue to grow, another option might be good, but I've been pretty happy.
What would you say is the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think the number one thing is just keeping going. I think a lot of people just quit. I think that a lot of people would have been successful if they hadn't stopped. And actually, I had a business before this in the health and wellness space. And that's how I learned this lesson because I stopped. I quit and I wish I hadn't. It's probably my biggest professional regret because I thought at the time that it wasn't working. I thought that I just didn't know enough. I really didn't know a lot about business at the time. It was my first business. I had no experience in bookkeeping or, no experience in marketing, no experience in sales at the time. I was a lot younger at the time. And so I just thought, it's just not working. I'm just bad at this. And some other things kind of came up that were at the time were profitable. So I went with that and kind of just let it go. And I I wish I had kept going because looking back, it was working and it was just a lot harder than I originally thought it was going to be. So it was working. And had I kept going, looking back, if I had done, if I had kept going and had it today at this time, it would have been really successful. So just don't stop. If you're doing it, if you're whether you're a passive investor or an active investor and you have a goal, just keep going.
Yeah.
Just even when it's hard.
No doubt. I think we can all learn from that in a big way. I'm reminded of a book. I actually have not read this book, but I know this is what it's about. But it's called 5 Feet from Gold.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They have
Uh,
kind of like a picture of that, with the guy with the pickaxe and
that's right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so many times you want to give up, right? And you can be so close. So, and that's also why I
Absolutely.
think it goes back to surrounding yourself with people that are ahead of you and that you can lean on, right? In times like that,
Yeah.
encourage you. Is so important. Alex, what about some habits that you're disciplined about that have produced a high return for you?
I think one that was really good and important was after I left sales and marketing and all of that and went full time into this business and, working for yourself. A lot of it was working from the office at home or wherever that may be. Having discipline to follow a schedule and having certain work hours and having time for other things in my life that aren't necessarily work, where like, okay, here I'm working, here I'm not. That was really helpful. And I know some people can kind of be more fluid and work through the day and then also do personal things here and there and switch back and forth. But I don't like doing that. For me, what's worked the best is just being very disciplined with a schedule because it just eliminated a lot of kind of stress of like, oh, I should be working right now while I'm with my family. And then I'm working, I should be with my family, kind of things like that. So having those priorities in order and having time for each thing has been really important for me. That's been a
Yeah. No,
good thing
I
for
think
me.
that's very wise, and the faster that you can get in a routine like that, the better, right? And best
Yeah.
for your family as well. My wife has been reading this book. I've read part of it, but it's called Deep Work, and I would
Oh,
encourage.
yeah, by Cal Newport, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. So there's a part in there where he talks about his like shutdown routine. you know, yeah, I don't know
Yeah, that's
if you read that or remember that, but he literally like goes through like a process at the end of each day. So he knows he's prepared for the next day. He's checked some final important things. And so it was like those things aren't like just popping up all the time throughout the rest of the day while he's with his family. Right. And he literally says like
right.
shut down or so like verbally he
Yeah,
says those
something
things.
yeah.
Yeah. So he like mentally knows he's like shutting it off for the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's wise when you can compartmentalize, especially if you can create a routine like that where you don't have to think about those things when you're with the family, right? You don't have to have your
Mhm.
your phone on you every second when you're sitting at the dinner table, right?
Yeah.
So now I appreciate your just diligence in that and stressing that because I also think it's very important. Alex, how do you like to give back?
I tend to like to give back by kind of like directly helping people. Sometimes it's like, oh, I can do a donation, for example, to the food bank or something like that. But what I think, at least personally for me, feels the best is when I can help somebody, especially if it's like somebody new in whatever endeavor they're trying to take on. If I have experience or knowledge in it, if I help them and they are ready and willing to put in the work to accomplish whatever goal or dream they're going for, I am all about it. So I get
No,
excited and I just wanna help. I have to, like, sometimes feel like, "Okay, like, I can't help too many can't do too much because, I got a business and family to do to do." But yeah, if somebody is, like, out there and they're hustling and they're trying to accomplish something, I love to just be able to share my knowledge or share what's worked for me, and that's had a huge impact in my life, whether that's in the health and wellness space, in business, investing, sales, marketing, anything like that.
yeah,
So yeah, I just like to mostly just kind of, I guess, do that, help people along their journeys. That's really like uh, meaningful to me.
for sure. And then it sounds like that's what others have done for you as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Alex, appreciate, you giving back in that way, but also to us today and just sharing your really systems of getting investors in the door, but then also how you take good care of them. That's what we're all trying to do, and providing
Mhm.
great service, right, to them as we grow in our businesses and learn new things. But thank you again for your time. How can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. If if you guys are looking for a way to get in touch with me, I'm I'm on LinkedIn, just Alex Kingman. And then our website has a little space where you can schedule a time to chat with me if you want to. It's at investwithkgi.com. And I'd say those are the two best places to get a hold of me. That's where I'm most active.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.